Wrestling from Florida, and I guess this is the program that everybody's been waiting for. And I have with me at this time the producer of Championship Wrestling, Mr. Eddie Graham. And Ed, all I can say is once again my congratulations to you for, to my knowledge, this is the first time in the history of television where a world championship has been on TV.
Well, Gordon, I'm real proud to be able to present the match. I feel like that this was one of the greatest cards and one of the greatest matches that I have ever been able to present to the people. And I know that there were thousands of fans who could not get to St. Petersburg and could not get to witness this match. And I'm real happy to be able to bring it to them. It was a great contest, I think, between two of the greatest athletes of our time, and I was really excited all during the match, and as a matter of fact, I'm excited to see it again, so why don't we get underway?
Well, we're going to in just a second, Ed. One thing I wanted to point out that, of course, professional wrestling, unlike any other professional sport, there is no timeout, there is no rest period. This match went 1 solid hour without a fall. Obviously, we are going to have to leave the match in progress at points to bring a commercial message to you, but these two men wrestled 1 solid hour without stopping, and it was truly a classic, and we'll be back with the beginning of this after this message. I'd like to point out that this match took place on February 8th, 1972, at the Bayfront Center, the beautiful Bayfront Center in St. Petersburg. And, of course, there were thousands of fans who came from all over the southeastern United States to witness this match. It was a tremendous classic. And, Jack, I know that in some ways this is probably going to be sort of a mixed emotion thing for you.
That's true, Gordon. I've viewed this film many times, and with mixed emotions, like you say, and there's several spots in there where my defense wasn't up to what it should have been, and a few opportunities I let slip by in there, and I'll try to point these out as we go along.
John, of course, we're going to be looking forward to your comments and your and the physiological aspects of the match and the technical points of it.
Well, it's a thrill to see it again. Of course, I saw it live at St. Petersburg, and I'm just happy to see it again.
All right, this match is underway, so let's join it at this time. And we'll be watching now as Dory Funk Jr., the world heavyweight champion. Now, Jack...
he has a spinning toe hold on. There's a block that Pat O'Connor helped me perfect. Pat O'Connor won the world championship with a spinning toe hold, and he helped me work out this block for it. And it's worked very well for me.
And the champion is still outside the ring at this time. And, of course, he's an excellent ring general. There's no question about it. He's going to take every advantage possible.
No doubt about it. He keeps his cool at all times. He never gets rattled. He's in top physical shape. And to defeat him, you just have to go all out in every aspect.
I just point out the National Wrestling Alliance requested that this match be videotaped in its entirety to make absolutely sure that there couldn't be any question regarding the outcome of the match. And, of course, it took a lot of negotiating and a lot of work on Eddie Graham's part to get this match, to get it on television. A lot of releases had to be signed, and I know that Dory Funk Jr., the world heavyweight champion, held out for a very, very substantial sum of money. He obviously probably didn't want this to be shown.
Well, he's sitting in the driver's seat, and he can demand just about anything he wants because everyone in the country is trying to get him up for a match, and he can just pretty well demand what he wants to. But I'm particularly glad that Eddie Graham did get this get in a position where he could show this on television.
And we certainly want to thank all of the sponsors along the line, too, that have joined with us in bringing this championship match to you at this time.
Here I'm applying the headlock to Dory Funk, and I'm trying to cut off or slow down the circulation to his head. And he sit through here and roll me back upon my shoulders for a 2 count.
You know, you've got that headlock on there, Jack. Naturally, you're trying to cut off some of that air supply and oxygen, but you realize how many thought processes you're leading from his perennial observations by just really squeezing and cutting that circulation off up there. The best way to find this out is to have somebody really stick a headlock to question and really hold it tight and come out of it. And your thoughts about making any progressive moves are gone. Your big worry is to get out of there. Get it off your head.
He's trying kind of jammed the knee in the side of my head, and I had the headlock locked up tight enough where he couldn't get the proper balance and was able to bring him back over.
You've got the ulnar bone running right across the orbital area. The cranial process is there, and it's sort of locked in. In other words, it's locked in the eyeball, the side of the eyeball. And you just can't push it up or down for fear of repair.
Here's the champion trying to break free now, and
Actually, I fixed my leg up and dropped it right across his knee. It's very painful on my knee.
and of course he had already applied that spinning toe to you at one point, and you were already beginning to favor that leg a little bit.
Of course, I guess his thoughts are that if he can have you associate pain in some other area of your body, that's going to take your desires to hold the headlock on him at the upper area of the body.
Well, I felt in training for this match that it would run into quite some time, so I figured that headlock would be the best way to try to slow him down and wear him out. So I spent many hours just working on exercises for the arms to build up the arms where the arms wouldn't tire easily.
And again, the champion after that leg, still concentrating on it. And of course, you still not releasing that headlock.
This is quite reminiscent of the days when Lewis was wrestling his tougher opponents. He, too, of course, perfected the headlock. He used to use a spring-type dummy and squeeze on that thing for hours on edge, and had tremendous biceps, of course, as you're developing right now, too. His forearms were very large and had large bone structure in the lower arms, such as you do. And that's the necessary ingredients to get that headlock and to the perfection stage where it can be of use to you.
Watching the World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship between Dory Funk Jr., the champion, and Jack Brisco, the challenger, here on Championship Wrestling from Florida. And Jack, at this point, you're beginning to obviously show some tremendous wear, but so is the champion, Dory Jr.
Yeah, he managed to grab that headlock and trying to get it back on him, but he's rammed my head in the turnbuckle and took its effect.
Certainly no question about this, but I might just point out that you two have been competing now for a while.
It's a side suit play, and it drops you right on the back of your head and your neck. It knocks the wind out of you and almost knocks you unconscious. You hit just right. A lot of times they try to get you back a little further, where you hit right on your head and it does knock you unconscious. So if you can get ready, if you feel it coming and get ready and try to tuck that head in, it'll save you from getting knocked out.
Well, of course, Sam Lichnick made the comment to me last week on Championship Wrestling that out of all of the great championship matches he's ever seen, that this is truly one of the great classics. And I guess he's seen just about every world championship match that's existed.
Well, Dory Funk is a great champion, and there's nothing in the world I want more than the world's championship. And I went all after this match. I felt I didn't leave anything unturned as far as training goes. I had him scouted to a T, and the man he's just too tough. I couldn't get to him.
There's no question about his skill and ability, but there's no question about it either that you are the number one ranked contender in the nation today. Obviously with the college background at Oklahoma State, twice NCAA champion, that you've put your entire lifetime has been devoted to the sport of wrestling.
Well, that's true, Gordon. Ever since I started wrestling when I was 15 years old, I immediately fell in love with it, and it takes a great deal of time and effort, a great deal of desire. Like even starting out in sophomore in high school, I spent 2 to 3 hours every day just on training techniques, different moves, different holds, and just perfecting the moves right down to the finest points. And it takes a lot of time, and I believe it's well worth it.
There's certainly no question about that. And, John, I think it's interesting to note, too, now that these men have been wrestling for a considerable period of time. I know that you have your football teams all wrestle, right?
Yes, they do. I think it's the finest conditioner for any type of athlete, especially when you have competitive athletics. Of course, the football players pad up with helmets and different various pads, whereas the wrestler here, as you see, doesn't have any protection whatsoever against his physical attack of his opponent, except his skill, his brains, his speed. And speaking of speed, of course, these men are setting a terrific pace. I remember, and I personally saw the match between Jim Londas and Dick Sheekat in Philadelphia, and I'll tell you, it was back in 1930, where Londas pinned, finally beat Sheekat with a side transfer and a leg pickup and a rollback. The men had wrestled, I believe, for 38 minutes, and they were completely exhausted. But the pace that they set was not this style of an activity or this fast. You might have got to remember that the first wrestling match, intercollegiate wrestling match, was in 1900 between the University of Pennsylvania and Yale. I'm not saying that I saw that.
I caught that, yes.
But we didn't. The type of wrestler that I witnessed back in the 30s was strength. They were more of a strength athlete. They were my idols, and they still are. I remember seeing Milo Steinborn, Hans Camper, and Hans Steinke in Philadelphia at the convention hall at the arena, Jim Londas and Sheekat and Steele. But the type of pace that's set today by the modern athlete who's coming out of college is, I would say, 5 to 10 times faster. And how these men can be devoted enough to a sport to condition their bodies to the maximum degree that we're witnessing in this match here is it's just unbelievable.
Well, certainly not taking a thing away from the former great champions, but I just wonder seriously, because they were, as you say, from strength as opposed to speed. I just wonder how long they'd be able to go in a match like this.
I don't know. I couldn't say, but I can't visualize them going to this type of match this fast. And I look at this exhibition here of tremendous ability to come out of a situation. It wasn't a predicament, it was just a plain near fall. And this is after the accumulation of energy has been expended for probably half an hour now. Just to get up and walk around would tax the old-time athlete who had tremendous power and strength. As I said before, they were and still are my idols as far as their physiques and their power that they exhibited. But along the evolution process of everything, where we learn and speed has come into speed and knowledge and skill has come into the wrestling game from the college product.
Jack, it appears at this point in the match that you are beginning to have things more or less going your way.
Gordon, as John was talking about the conditioning a while ago, I knew that Dory Jr. was in top physical condition. And I knew in order to beat him, I had to push him all the way. So from the opening of the bell, I carried the match to him, and my theory was to push him as hard as I could from the very opening and try to wear him down, and therefore try to get my win. And so far, I've had control of most of the match, and he's tiring a little bit, but not as much as I'd hoped.
You know, Jack, pardon me.
Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, Jack, along with the fantastic conditioning you have to go through to emphasize yourself for professional wrestling, you also have to have the knowledge and experience to be able to pace your body to a certain extent. When you were in college, you were preparing yourself for the time limit matches of 9 minutes. You went all out in that 9 minutes, and here you were faced with the possibility of going for an entire hour.
Which is exactly what happened.
That's true, and just like John said, you can pretty well feel within yourself how your body is reacting to the time and the energy that has been spent, and you are able to pace yourself. But just like I said earlier, I just want to push it a little beyond and see if I can get Frank worn down a little bit.
Well, just as a college athlete has to train for the ultimate possibility of a tie of going 11 minutes in an overtime match, here you have to train for you train probably for the ultimate 2-hour match. In other words, that you can have top expenditure of energy for the 1 hour if it's necessary to go that long.
Beautiful shoulder smash by Jack, and there, beautiful.
He hit the backdrop, man. I said he went down a little too quick, and I caught him. I caught what he was going to do, and he was able to leap from the end over for the sunset flip for a near fall. But he was able to come out of it.
Well, to be able to make those sit-outs and side rolls that were necessary to escape from Funk coming on top of you there and make another predicament is another amazing feat.
That's where the timing is so important, Gordon. So when I came off those ropes and he was bending over to give me that back body drop, if he had bent down, say, a half a second later, then he would have had me in trouble, whereas just that half a second caused him to almost lose the match. So that's where your timing is very involved and very important.
Let's it's amazing that the coordination that is necessary for any professional wrestler. And like we've said before, John, in basically you're playing human chess, your mind has to be almost several minutes ahead of yourself.
Best idea or way for a layman to get any type of association of the amount of preparation necessary for this match is just to go out and try and run for 1 hour. Now, that's without anybody resisting you. Here, you're not only running for the 1 hour, but you have a man of equal or more weight than you resisting your every effort, plus the fact you have to think of moves that you want to make, think of the moves and potentials that he might make, the blocks to that, and the counter block to that. So here, as Eddie Graham has pointed out many times, and I have too, I believe that the wrestler is the most fabulously conditioned and marvelous machine that we have in the athletic world today.
Jack, you made a comment one time that when you were an all-state football player, that you'd come out of the football season ready to go into wrestling. And what kind of shape were you in?
Well, I was in good shape for football, Gordon. Every sport has its own condition, basketball, football, whatever. But I played both ways. I played defense and offense in football, and I'd come out of football season in top shape for football and going to wrestling, and just had to start all over again. Just a completely different conditioning, and of course you win. And like John says, when you're trying to carry your own weight, plus you get someone of your own size resisting everything, it's a completely different game.
I just mention a moment, if I may, that you'll see several flashes around ringside. Of course, there were, as we said, thousands of fans there from all over the southeastern United States. And, of course, it was a tremendous night of competition. This was the climax of the entire evening, the World Heavyweight Championship match. But the giant Baba had been flown in from Tokyo. I think it was the first time in the history of the South that such great wrestling talent had ever been assembled at one time. The Sheik, Johnny Valentine, the U.S. champion, of course. You had Mike Paducas was there, the former All-American from Tennessee. Tim Woods, who was twice AAU national champion, also in the Olympics. Bob Roop was on hand that night to compete. Of course, he was with the Olympics. So it was a fantastic night.
I'd just like to point out the difference right here. You're witnessing an evolutionary change. In the old days, Joe Stecker used to be able to get that scissors on somebody and just hold him down there for 10, 15 minutes. And, of course, it was very antagonizing, and it did suck a lot of the wind out. You couldn't get the diaphragm to work right and get the oxygen going through the system. But here, through knowledge, Funk has learned that by waiting for the right pulse beat to make the turn in and to make the stand up and go into a Boston Crab.
I was just going to say, Jack, you certainly had to be undergoing a lot of pain at that point, yet you never did concede.
That's true, Gordon. And like John had pointed out earlier, the wrestlers in the beginning were strong men. A hole such as this in the beginning would have caused the wrestlers to give up because of the strength, and it wasn't as supple or as agile. Today they actually train to be more supple and more agile and more nimble, where you can withstand a lot of these holes that the big muscle men just can't withstand because their body can't bend that far.
And yet, we can say that the athlete today isn't as strong. Look at that.
Right.
Here we had somebody just picking a man to waist, what is it, 200 and...
About 235 on Dory Jr., and it was a beautiful full body slam.
But to pick up 235 at this point of a match, Gordon, I think it'll reserve a strength that the man must possess, that Jack must possess.
Arm drag and whip into the far turnbuckle, and a good forearm smash. And now the champion's beginning to show some obvious wear, Jack.
Yes, he is.
Well, on an average man, that would be lights out. Those forearms coming across.
No question about it.
Here again, I'm trying to cut off his circulation to the head, trying to wear him out completely down.
It looks like you've got one of the carotid arteries taken care of. And you got to get both, Jack.
Yes. My shoulder's too high up on his left side.
His endurance is amazing.
He just started to roll over there, and I thought he was going to stop there, and I loosened up just for a second. He was able to go right on through and gain control of me.
We're watching the World Heavyweight Championship match between Dory Funk Jr. and Jack Brisco here on Championship Wrestling from Florida. Still in the match, and at this point, Jack, you obviously have the champion in a lot of trouble and a lot of pain.
Yes, working on both shoulders now. He was able to get one of them away from me. Took him was still trying to keep control of that arm, trying to put pressure into his shoulder now, and sitting under and drawing his arm up where it really puts the pressure up there. And bringing the arm up towards the head doesn't get near as much pressure as it does when you have the arm and bring it out from the body, where most people think you take it up towards the head, you're going to get more pressure, but you want to take it out from the body where you get your real pressure.
Well, of course, Jack, you have a limitation now. Of course, it shows here the aspects of the rules now in amateur wrestling. The chicken wing, which is very reminiscent here, is very closely watched by all officials, and it's to the point of being outlawed practically entirely now. But that's just exactly what you had in one game.
Yes.
And again, Jack, it's obviously here that his timing was off there. There's no question about that.
He went for the elbow, and when I turned around, I saw him. He had the elbow cut, and I saw it plenty of times where I could duck and get out of the way. And that's where I dropped the shoulder, an elbow in on his shoulder, and still working on that shoulder. That's where the people just didn't realize the timing that's involved. So just a split second can cause you to lose the match or anything.
You take that aggressive move of your own, and sometimes it'll backfire on you if you're a second too early or too late. The one that you think you're going to pin him with.
Jack, did you feel at this point that you had him?
I felt I had things going my way, and you never satisfied. I took a chance here on the cradle. I figured I had him pretty well locked up, but he was able to break out of it.
A beautiful double leg dive, and you're still after him, and apparently going for that Boston Crab.
Yes. I figured I had him weakened enough now if I could get this on him that he would possibly concede, because I had him worn out pretty well at this time.
Well, this is almost a reflex action by Funk. When he came out of that inside cradle, you had all the supinator muscles that he's developed over the years had to be called into play. And here again, you're attacking that same area. And the only way you can possibly come out is by really taking those supinator rectus muscles and just making them so tight, unless he can make an escape to the ropes here. But I thought when I was witnessing the match that this was the end of it.
I'm trying to get him completely straight, and he's keeping his weight to one side, which is putting the pressure more or less on one side than through his whole back, and through the whole back is where I was wanting the pressure, but he was able to keep it off to one side.
And he's obviously undergoing a lot of pain. He is not conceding. There's certainly no one can question the man's tremendous tenacity and will when he's in the ring. And, of course, he finally got to those ring ropes, which forced you to cause the break.
I'm trying to think right now if some hold I can get him in where they have him locked up. I feel at this time if I can get him in a pinning combination, that I could win the match.
Of course, going to the ropes here, as you saw Funk doing, isn't very unusual. If you go to a lot of the collegiate or high school matches, you'll see a lot of the boys work towards the edge of the mat. You get off, and I can remember those days myself, Jack.
Right. Several times especially when someone has in some sort of a ride that you can't break, and the edge off the mat to get a fresh start.
Right.
And I'm going for the backbreaker here.
You come down hard.
I feel like I got him now. I'm going to go for the figure four there.
I had a very disappointed son, named Pat Jr., when he saw that Funk came out of that mode. He felt that he had championship belt in hand that night.
I felt the same way, Dennis.
Tremendous spark power there, and it's with the neck bridge and then the phone presses that come in for Dory. Just almost reflex action now when you come out of those pinning.
Psychologically, Jack, when the man just refused to concede and was able to escape, did this then begin to discourage you?
It's very disheartening. I felt at this point, I really had him weak. I felt that he really threw me over the top rope, Gordon, and I ordinarily would be a disqualification, but this was ruled by the N.W.A. President Sam Wrestling. It would be a no disqualification match. And on my part, I'm certainly glad it was, because the match would have ended there, and I would have been very disappointed.
Once again, it points out that kind of conditioning, he's still thinking ahead. Mr. Funk is able to think that far.
We're watching the World Heavyweight Championship match between Dory Funk Jr. and Jack Brisco here on Championship Wrestling from Florida. of course, both of you, as we said, went for one solid hour. Now, this match is well along at this point, and, of course, neither one of you have stopped. Neither of you had any surcease whatsoever. And, John, I would imagine that by this time, almost all of the reserves are being used up.
Well, quite a bit have been used up, of course. On an average man, the supply would have been long gone. These fellows have trained exceptionally hard for this match. And they're calling on what we call the deep cool here. It's the deep wind now. Coming into the capillary use. You feel probably some tingling in the fingers, Jack. You have no feeling left at all right about now.
Much after that, fortunately for me, and I detected it in the films here, when he came off a little bit too high and overshot me just a little bit. Was still able to get that knee right in the area, in the neck area there. This time I'm just trying to breathe right now. Got me across the throat and cut my wind off completely, and I'm trying to get down where I can breathe again.
Well, as painful as it was in the neck area, I'm sure you felt it in the deep abdominal area too, because you've got to make the diaphragmatic muscles go up and down to get that air supply in.
Near 10, I mean, at that point, Jack, and of course this is obviously a result of the injury you suffered when you came off that top rope. At this point, Jack, did you feel like perhaps it was all over, that he was going to get the pin on you?
Well, I felt like I was in pretty bad trouble here, Gordon, and like I said, I'm still trying to get my breath back, my strength back, and what I'm doing here, I'm just watching for pinning combinations, and this is mostly all I'm thinking about right now is thinking about the different pinning combinations he's going to be trying to get on me, and how I can manage to get out. This was a surprise for me. This is a new hold in scouting. I found from wrestling before. I'd never used this hold before, and this was a complete surprise to me, and it took its damage on me.
I noticed there, Jack, that you realized you didn't have enough power probably at that stage to push him off, as you do quite a bit in wrestling when you were in that position last time, and you just tried to make the roll to the stomach.
Yes. Just trying to get control there.
You were really back to the basics in your mind at that time.
You said, of course, we're obviously good. Classic match. As Sam Rushman said, it's certainly estimated as one of the greatest he's ever seen. You can tell here that wow. I don't know where you got that strength, Jack.
He went for the forearm to the head, and I saw it coming, and Dyson went for the suplex. It didn't have the damage I thought that because I was going back, I lost a little balance and went off to one side, and he didn't take the full down on the back of his head. Because
like you said, in retrospect, you can pick places and times, and but if you've done something just a fraction of a second faster or slower, it could have made a difference. I mean, this is where everybody was concerned that you had lost your cool, so to speak, and everybody knows your temper. It's getting a little rattled. Champion over that top rope at first once again. I'd like to know that this was a no disqualification match by special sanction of the National Wrestling Alliance. I would assume that's one of the reasons that they wanted to and insisted upon having this entire match videotaped. Yes. I don't think that they ever intended for this to be shown on television as such. But Eddie Graham, realizing that thousands of people, of course, not only thousands but literally millions, when you consider that championship wrestling is seen along the entire eastern seaboard, that there was an opportunity for a lot of people. There was no way for them to get here to be able to see this tremendous competition.
You know, it appears now that Jack has really called on, not knowingly, of course, but adrenaline type of energy. He was working with instinct quite a bit, but when he really got the really basic temper fired up, then the adrenaline is released, and a lot of that strength comes out, And how long he can stay with an adrenaline type of strength or speed, that's hard to determine, Gordon.
And the champion in trouble here at this point, and of course, Jack, obviously you're quite upset at this point.
Well, as the match goes along and you start getting tireder and tireder, you don't think as well, and that's when your reflex starts coming in real handy, because you're not thinking as clearly as you are at the first of the match, and this is where your training really comes in, because a lot of these holds are more or less just reflex action. He injured his leg in the ropes, and I'm trying to get control of his leg. Of course, he's fighting me off with it.
Yeah, you're going for the figure 4, and you've got it applied.
And he's trying to roll to the ropes, and you see I'm trying to roll him back to the middle. But he's got such long arms and long reach that he has real good leverage before it's controlling his body and which way you turn. I'm trying to scoot out to the middle, and he was able to get into the ropes.
In the meantime, though, he took a lot of punishment.
Yes, it weakened the leg quite a bit. He's going for the same thing.
And, of course, the count is on, and this could have been, I'm sure that it finally dawned on Dory Jr. that the longer he stayed out there, the more jeopardy he was in.
That's spinning forward.
And a very, very effective block by the challenger. We're watching the World Heavyweight Championship match between Dory Funk Jr. and Jack Brisco here on Championship Wrestling from Florida. It's a long, solid hour, and yet you still have a tremendous reserve of strength left. But how much was your body weight lost that night?
I lost about approximately 10 pounds that night, Gordon. An hour-long match, you sweat an awful lot, and I try to keep my body sludged up quite a bit for a match where you know that it's going to involve a lot of time and a lot of work and wearing down your opponent. And here, Funk goes for the suplex again, and this is a very damaging hold here, and I hit flat on my back, and it was hurting for wind a little bit. And at this point in the match where the time is running out and I start to realize the time is running out on me, I'm going to do anything, any hold I can get, any possible combination I can do in order to get a pin. And so you just start grabbing for straws at this time, because it took me so long in order to get this match signed, and to go through everything and everybody just to get this match signed.
Just to be able to get oxygen into the tissues here is a fantastic exhibition of the aerobic processes of both men, Gordon. It's amazing. Just by taking air in doesn't necessarily mean that the oxygen is going to reach all the muscular and other areas that are necessary to make the body function. There has to be years of training to get the body to accept the oxygen when it does come in. And evidently, here's living proof of two men who have trained probably all of their life. And this could be the culmination of their years of training.
And here was the point in the match, Jack, frankly, I was very, very disturbed. I thought it was all over for you.
I was indecisive there. I was going to go for the body scissors, and he was there a little bit too quick, and I wasn't able. I was just starting to make my move for the body scissors, and it collided.
And it looks like you took the worst brunt of it there, because
the side of his head hit me right in the temple, and I saw stars for a few seconds.
He knows it too, and he's attacking that area. I've noticed throughout the match that he looks for the spot that he thinks had an effective move on.
I still think that enough time to wear that leg down and really get tired enough, and still feel like I can win the match with a figure 4, but he's got every idea.
Well, once again, using his ring ropes to his own advantage at this point. Has been extremely effective at times with the hours. Once again, excellent in the impact.
He got to the ropes and hit his shoulder on the post.
trying to take advantage of that also, Jack. Putting a lot of pain in the upper extremity and get his thought processes up there and then attack that leg.
And once again, going for that figure 4, and the champion to break it up, but you're still trying to hold on to it.
I want to get that leg hold real bad, Gordon. I feel like if I can apply it, I can beat him at this time. And of course, here again, we're too close to the ropes.
Witnessing this match at Bayfront, I thought it was the fastest 60 minutes of action I'd ever witnessed in my life.
Can you remember, Jack, what was going through your mind at this point? You're trying to get back into the ring.
Feeling of frustration, Gordon, is going through my mind right now. I know there's just very little time left, and I know that I can't afford to get in too much trouble anymore. And I've got to get a hold of some combination.
Finally dropping the champion to the floor, to the canvas, rather, with some tremendous forearm smashes. And he is particularly effective with those forearm smashes, isn't he?
Well, it certainly is. I believe he has many hours of work on this. Yeah, I was going to go for the figure 4, and I saw it was under the ropes, and I didn't want to waste any more energy than I had to.
Amazing exhibition of strength, Jack. Be able to pick him out after all physical energy has been expended by him. Gordon, can you see why I have the football team wrestle?
I certainly can.
Actually, they only participate in activity for about 6 minutes in their games. And here these men have gone for an entire hour.
Yeah, I'm going to domino stretch against used by many wrestlers very effectively, and it puts pressure on the entire abdomen, and shoulder, just all through the upper body. And
it makes that diaphragm so tight he cannot breathe. Also, the serratus magnus muscles coming across there being pulled and stretched. And
what's going through my mind now is the possibility that he's not going to give up, so I try to take him onto the mat and try to get him a pin. And it's an awkward position there. And as we went down, I lost him a little bit and was able to tighten back up. But I couldn't keep that shoulder down.
Got a guillotine on the knee. Must have tremendous powers, Jack, to be fighting at this stage in this match.
And it's somewhat reminiscent, too, of that abdominal stretch video of the great Vern Gander from the University of Minnesota and on the Olympics team and all on that uses this considerably, I know. And the hold was finally broken, Jack, and
the time was run out.
How secure did you have him, Jack? Right there, looked like a real fine lock you had on.
I had him locked up just about as tight as he doesn't have anyone locked up. And Dory is a very agile man, very supple. I just couldn't keep it locked in enough.
And of course, the time ran out. He had wrestled 1 hour to a draw. And, of course, then Dory Funk Jr. retained the World Heavyweight Championship. There you see the fantastic crowd, one of the largest gates ever in the South for professional wrestling at the Bayfront Center in St. Petersburg, a marvelous edifice in St. Petersburg. And you see the throngs of fans who witnessed truly one of the great classic wrestling matches of all times. Now you're offering your hand, and yet somewhat guardedly, I think, Jack. So obviously this must have been at that moment a very disappointing thing to you.
It certainly was, Gordon, because I'd said before I'd spent months and months just getting the match signed, and I just had my chance, and all the time was out, and a feeling of depression, that's all I can say.
Well, I can say this much, though, that anybody who could go 60 minutes with the World Heavyweight Champion and hold him to a draw, there's no question about it, he is the #1 contender. And we'll be back with some more comments after this message. And until next week, this will be Gordon Soley saying so long from the Sunshine State.